Honey, you got people pleaser all written all over your face. Okay, all right, we gonna get it together now. All right, because even yesterday, okay, honey, I was calling myself doing some people pleasing. All right, we are going to talk about it. Today's video, we are going to talk about people pleasing, why you people please, why you say yes to others, and then say no to yourself. Because every time you say yes to someone else that you really don't want to say yes to, you are saying no to yourself. We also going to talk about and take a look at where people pleasing come from, okay, and how it has an effect on your life. How to start saying no. Remember this, your no, it requires no explanation. Is a full sentence. No. Peace, family, peace, 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 peace. I hope you guys are having such an amazing, phenomenal, magnificent day, okay? So today's video is pretty much about people pleasing. My name is Dina Bryant. I do these inspiration videos, okay? Just to take a look at why we tend to do some of the things that we do. I also do some Dollar Tree hauls and some vegan recipes, okay? So today is about people pleasing, how to say no, okay? Honey, I know you've been saying yes when you really wanted to say no. And oftentimes it derives from when we were children and perhaps we wanted to be, you know, good little children, so to speak, we wanted to please our parents. We didn't want them to be upset. Okay. So we would do any and everything to please our parents. Another place I think it comes from also is growing up for me, right? I remember, my parents, I would see them be indecisive, right? Oftentimes they may say, yes to things, but then they really wanted to say no. And then oftentimes, sometimes they would have an attitude because they have said yes when they really wanted to say no, right? I didn't know really I was a people pleaser growing up, right? And I wouldn't be a people pleaser to everyone, but I sure would be a people pleaser to some people, okay? And oftentimes that looked like somebody had asked me to do something and I really, really didn't want to do it, but I didn't want to piss them off, okay? I didn't want to upset them. I didn't want them to, probably throw something in my face that they probably have done for me before. And oftentimes I would just go along and say yes. But then at the end of the day, I would have a whole attitude. Okay. Sometimes I probably would talk about the person behind their back. Okay. Because I was afraid, a little afraid. Okay. Say afraid, a little afraid. Okay. I was a little afraid to say no. Okay. And one of the things in life that you have to understand is that the universe is always giving us lessons, okay? It is always showing us how we are showing up. And what I started doing was, and I remember when I first started doing this, okay? And I was, honey, I want to say a little afraid, but honey, I was afraid, okay, big afraid, okay, all right, okay. And I remember my mother, okay, who I love to the life of me. I remember my mother, she would often ask me if I could take her places, right? Like drive her to the supermarket, take her, different places, wherever she wanted to go. And I remember at times, I just didn't feel like doing it. And so I would, when she would ask me, I would say, yeah, but deep down inside, I didn't want to do it. But I didn't want to upset my mother. We have this thing, well, I gotta do everything for my mother, or I gotta do everything for my father and stuff because they brought me into this world, or some type. We sometimes feel obligated, right? And if we don't do it, you may feel bad, or you may feel some type of guilt. Okay. And so I remember, my mother would ask me, and it would be times where, as though, not all the time, but it would be times where I would say, like, not right now, but I had the muster of the courage to say, like, not right now, or whatever. And sometimes my mama, she would have like a little attitude. Okay, she would have a little attitude, and that would make me feel some type of way. So that it would make me feel guilty. It would make me feel like, do it. You don't want her to be upset with you, so just go on and do it. Okay. And I would do it. And I remember after my spiritual awakening, my first spiritual awakening, I started seeing that my life was going the way my life was going because of how I was showing up. Okay. If you want your life to get better, if you're not taking accountability and responsibility for how you showing up, your life will not get better. And I remember this one particular time I was in a car and I was listening to Miss Iyanla Van Zandt, who talked about boundaries. And up to this point, like, I never heard anybody talk about boundaries. Everything was pretty much, I do it, yes. Even if they wanted to say no, it was always yes. And I want to say, in some cases, they didn't have the courage, or they had the courage, but they just wasn't using their courage to say no, right? And so I was listening to Miss Iyanla Van Zandt, and I remember she was talking about boundaries, and I never heard anyone talk about boundaries. And one of the things she said was, she said, if you are living someone else's, like, people will have you living a life, something like the life that they want for you or something. And she went on and she was saying, you have to have boundaries, healthy boundaries, right? And I remember, and boundaries is pretty much you letting people know how to play a role in your life, right? It's pretty much, you know, you can't cross this line. This is like, this is my line right here, and you can't cross it. And so I remember, my mother, I was a little afraid, and my mother had called me, and I was like, Ma, I have boundaries with you. And I was like, ooh, child, when you thinking of something to say, but you like afraid to say it. That's how I felt. And I remember I told my mother, I said, I have boundaries with you and stuff. I said, it's times you ask me to take you places, and sometimes I don't want to take you, but I don't want you to be upset. So then I go ahead and take you. And one of the things my mother said, she said, I don't get upset. If you don't want to take me, you don't have to take me. And she went on, but she would get upset. Okay. And then she went on, and she said, well, Dina, that is your car. If you don't want to do something, you need to say you don't want to do it. And she was absolutely right, because it would be times where, as though, I would just say yes because I didn't want her to get upset. And I didn't know how to voice that because I thought that I would get like a backlash, right? Like an argument would start. And I think a lot of times that's why we tend to, just say yes, right? And we don't, or we wasn't taught how to have healthy boundaries, because chances are, your parents didn't have healthy boundaries. We tend to do what we see or what we have seen our parents do. Okay. And so I'm going to share this story with you guys. So last night, okay, well, yesterday, somebody had called me and they wanted me to do something. And I really didn't want to do it, okay? But again, I was thinking, oh, this person do so much for me. But I really don't want to do it. The thing that they asked me to do, I said I really didn't want to do it. And after the person asked me the first time, I said, all right, okay. But then later on that night, the person called me again and they wanted me to go somewhere. And I was like, oh, that's like, 14 blocks away from my house. Because they said, oh, is it walking distance? And I was like, no. So that's 14 blocks away from my house. So I'm thinking that is going to let me off the hook, right? I'm thinking that the person is going to say, oh, well, it's 14 blocks. You know what? Never mind. Don't go, right? And instead of me saying, I don't want to do it, right? I was waiting for that person to say, well, that is too far. You know what? You don't have to do it. And so later on, after we spoke, last night, then we spoke again, right? And a person brought it up again for me to go to this place. And I was thinking to myself, I done told this person that it's like 14 blocks and they still, expect me to go. But that was because I didn't make it clear. That was because I didn't say, listen, I really don't want to go. I don't want to do this. Okay. I agreed to get along. Okay. I agreed because I felt like if I don't do this and this person, they do so much, then they may stop doing it. Okay. And so I was in a bed, okay, after we got off the phone, I pretty much went to bed and I was laying down, tossing and turning, tossing and turning. And I kept thinking about how I said yes. And I really, really wanted to say no. And so I was, growing a little irritated. I started yelling at my children and stuff because in my mind, I'm just thinking about, dang, I should have said no, right? And so what I did was, it was like about 1 o'clock in the morning and I sent the person a message, okay? And I said, I don't want to go there and I don't want to do it, right? And it's so funny because prior to that, I was, tossing and turning. I couldn't really sleep because I had this going on in my mind, all right, about how I really wanted to say no, okay? But I was people pleasing, okay? And so after I told the person, I really don't want to do this and stuff, like, I'm not doing it. They didn't send a response back, but I felt good because I think a lot of times when we tend to tell people yes, or when we people pleasing, oftentimes we think, well, maybe this person do so much for me, and if I lose this person, then it's like I lost the plug. Okay, I lost the person that would help me out. But one of the things that you have to understand is this: when you have healthy boundaries and you are able to tell people exactly what it is that you mean, okay, then even if you was to lose this person, okay, somebody else would be replaced. Somebody else, so that person would be replaced. Now, I know people can't be replaced, but in this case, honey, that person will be replaced with someone else that is willing to respect your boundaries. And we don't do anybody any justice when we are constantly saying yes and people pleasing, because it sends a signal, especially if you have children, right? It sends a signal like, do things even if you don't want to do them. And to me, that's like you being a prisoner of your own life. okay? Because you are putting someone else's happiness before your own. And like I told you guys, I would uh, see my mother growing up and how she would, say yes when oftentimes she really, really wanted to say no. And I don't want my children to, grow up and be saying yes or people pleasing. And our children, they learn firsthand how to be and how to grow up based upon what they see us do. Okay. And so, in order for you to get over people pleasing, you must have boundaries. Like you must have boundaries. And then it needs to be a consequence for the person that you have given your boundaries to. So for instance, if I told my mother, right, that I don't want to go, and then if she have an attitude or whatever, then she just have an attitude. Okay. So what's the takeaway? Okay. The takeaway from this video is this. We are going to start really exercising our no. Okay. You cannot be willing, and when I say you, honey, I'm talking to me too. Okay. All right. We cannot be willing to make others happy at our own demise. Okay. We cannot be willing to please others and go against ourselves. Ooh, child. We cannot be willing, okay, to satisfy other people and then dissatisfy ourselves. You get what I'm saying? Okay. So the takeaway is you're going to start saying no. Even if your voice is shaking, even if you texting a person, okay, you're going to start exercising your no. You do not want to live someone else's nightmare. And if people cannot understand when you say no, that is for them to figure out, not for you. So the next time, because, oftentimes we talk real big, right? We talk real big and we have all these plans and, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And then the universe will test you to see if you're about that life. Okay. So the universe will test you. But the phenomenal thing about life and the universe is that when we are getting a test, in that moment, we have the opportunity, right, to pass the test, to recall, oh, how did this make me feel the last time, I said yes to somebody and I really wanted to say no. Also, it gives you the opportunity to ask yourself, how am I showing up in life? Because people will only do what they see you accept. So if you don't want to keep on going through certain life lessons, okay, you have to start doing the work on yourself and start being authentic. I want you to know that you are capable of changing your life and you have what it takes, but you have to be honest. And the honesty, it starts with you at first. And then it trickles down into others. But when you don't want to do something, be clear. I don't want to do it. And I know it may seem a little scary at times, right? Because we've been doing things for people so much, or oftentimes people may have been doing things for us. But just because they've been doing things for us, and that's another thing, because, when somebody do something for you and you did not ask them to do those things, okay, don't feel obligated. Don't feel obligated. Don't feel, well, they do this, they do all this stuff for me, so now I have to feel obligated to do things for them. No, you don't feel obligated to do it. If you don't want to do it, you don't do it. And I remember, when and this also stems from doing things that is not of the heart, from your heart. Okay? Because if people are doing things from their heart and they are putting themselves first, they're not going to throw up in your face all the times that they did for you, because they did it from their heart. The only time that they'll throw up in your face about the things that they have done for you, when you had told them no, because you standing on your square, okay? You like, I'm not gonna do no people pleasing. I'm gonna be authentic with myself, because this life is supposed to be a fulfilled life, a happy, blissful life. It's not supposed to be full of misery and guilt and shame and things like that. Those things we have pretty much been taught. Okay? And so the only time somebody will throw things up in your face based upon all the stuff that they had done for you is because it wasn't from the heart, it wasn't authentic. Okay? And it was something behind it. Well, I'm going to do this, is codependency. I'm going to do this because, I want them to do X, Y, and Z. And that's not authentic. So the next time somebody asks you something that you don't want to do, tell them no. And if they have an attitude and get upset with you, get angry with you, they have to figure that out. Because if they was doing it from the heart, whatever it is that they done for you, they would respect But one of the things I'm going to share with you guys, and I know to be true, people who don't have boundaries, they will never respect your boundaries. And with that being said, I love you guys. Make sure you guys comment, like, subscribe, and I catch you guys on the next one. Peace.